step forward.
Three generations, black nerd soldiers, podcast snipers trying to pop culture. Allegedly, haters trying to talk, but a pedigree in rare form.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Standout podcast, the only podcast in the world where we say "fuck Captain America." And I am your co-host, Captain Diesel.
We say that. Just
we do. I speak for us all.
No.
Words immediately starting off.
I speak for us all. We hate that nigga.
We shut this entire
Especially
podcast.
with a black Captain America movie getting ready to come out. No, we don't. You're okay.
Steve Rogers. Fuck Steve Rogers. Fuck the Aryan brother. Let's we're done with him.
Keep in mind that Aryan brother gave the shield to
Aryan.
Mm-hmm.
He gave the shield to. He gave the shield to your boy.
We done with the Nazis.
He was
He fought the Nazis. He literally bragged about how he knocked out Hitler over 200 times.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
This guy.
You're knocking out your friends. I mean, that's Draymond Green energy.
Yeah, that's the
You was that really his friend though?
We started off on a tangent. This time.
Yeah, guys. I'm Captain Diesel. I'm here with my illustrious co-host, Mr. King of the Comics, Professor E, Ethan Murphy, and Mr. Lelouch V, aka the Big Black Muffin, and we are here to talk about some more nerdy shit, guys. Today, we are going to be covering, or at least getting a semi-final discussion in on My Adventures with Superman Season 2. We had a lot of positive things to say about the first season of this show, so I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about the second season. I feel like this season has been kind of flying under the radar for a lot of the people on the internet, because from Twitter to Facebook groups to TikTok, I haven't seen too many posts about this season of this show. And it's weird because I don't think it's due to like lack of quality, but I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about it.
Did the first season get that much love?
I mean,
I feel like I saw a lot of people talk about it positively.
The first season, okay.
At least for me, at least. Maybe
I'm the first season, but this second season just decided to drop at the same time as The Boys and House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Kaiju number 8.
Yeah, you're kind of buried.
A bunch of other like things that are really pulling people's attention, but still coming right down off the hype of X-Men 97.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like they just dropped that spinoff for the Harley Quinn show, that Kite Man show. I just not noticed. Like I looked on HBO Max and saw that's up already. I'm like, damn, this is out already?
Good. Is it good? That show any good?
I haven't checked it out yet. I was going to look at it later tonight before I went to sleep.
Okay. And they also have the Suicide Squad Isekai. That came out after it, but it's just so much around. It's hard to...
That shit is horrible. Don't watch that. Don't watch that shit.
I haven't watched it.
Don't watch that shit. Don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time. Ninja energy there.
I don't... Ethan, you know me. I very rarely say don't watch some shit. Don't watch that shit.
A matter of fact, I'm trying to think of anything you've ever actually said don't watch. Actually, just
Cowboy Bebop.
Don't watch
the live action.
Yeah, that may be the only thing you've ever.
That's the only other thing I've ever feel like I'm not watching this anymore. I watched that first episode of that anime and was like, I'm not touching this shit ever again.
Yeah.
Dubbed or subbed, I tried it both ways. Fuck no, can't do it.
You watched Cowboy Bebop. Watch that.
I watched the original, like the show, about the live action.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You talking about
I'm talking dub sub. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for Superman now, get back on track. General thoughts on the season thus far. General sentiments. How are y'all feeling about the show for this season?
I think it's pretty solid. I think they do a pretty solid job of showing the growing pains of the relationship of Lois and Clark. They kind of dive into the, I guess, reoccurring now relationship of Jimmy Olsen and Supergirl. Spoiler alert for people that don't know, she's in this one. Looking a lot like Android 18, like a lot like Android 18.
Or what was her name? Lupus, or her real name was like Lupus, or let's do something. Lupa. My Android 18's name, like they have her actual name. It's like let's lose something. Yeah, her and her brother. And if you look at the anime on like the sheets where they're looking at their names and almost looking at it, they have their actual names like on the anime.
Pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
But
It's like Lapis. I think it's Lapis or something like that.
Lapis. The haircut, though, if I think about 18, I think of a classic, iconic haircut where it's like kind of like the way it's almost like Leonardo DiCaprio or Leon S. Kennedy kind of haircut on a woman. And I think of Supergirl is almost like looks like it was cut by a dad that didn't know how to cut it properly. It was like it's like.
I mean, pretty much.
That's basically what it is.
The blonde hair, the white T-shirt, the black jacket on there. Like, I mean,
the outfit, the fit.
It screamed 18 to me.
Yeah, the fit does.
I think the show's taking a lot of anime influences, honestly.
Oh, 100%.
This show,
they're not even trying to be sort of like that no more. Yeah. What's interesting too about that is like you're saying it, how it's the influences. There's a part where when she first meets with Jimmy, where there's a truck coming. And wasn't there a part in DBZ where she does yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
for me, this season, in quality wise, pretty much holds up to the first one. I don't think it's any better or any worse. Personally, I think it's pretty much at like the same level of quality when it comes to the character writing, some of the action. I like the fact they went back to some of the older characters in Livewire, and I can't remember the Magma lady's name off the top of my head. And kind of fleshing it out a little bit more. We got more of Mijor. Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name because I almost called him the Brain, but Mijor Mala and
the ape in the
Mala,
but I forgot. Is Brain his name? It's something I can't remember. Okay. We got a lot more of them and a lot more of the side characters this season, and especially a lot more out of Jimmy. I think Carl made a great appearance. All in all, again, the show is hidden for me, but to Lelouch's point, I think it is dropped at the like worst possible time. It's like anybody that dropped music during the Kendrick and the Drake beef. It's like, bro, there's too much going on here. You're not gonna get drowned out, my guy.
Yeah, for me, the show is I know what it is. It's a little slow in the picking up speed. I think what it was the first season was a lot of fun to watch. The interactions with Jimmy and Lois and Clark all kind of building their friendship, and also the mystery as to far like how long we play this game where they don't know who he is. And it was fun watching it where they figured out, where Lois actually figured out on her own that he was definitively Clark. And oh, by the way, your best friend Jimmy's known since you knew you in college. So it's kind of fun seeing that unfold. And it's fun seeing Clark take his lumps and also kind of figure out how to be Superman in the first season. This season, the first few episodes are kind of like, it was weird because it almost seemed like out of character for Jimmy to basically abandon his boy on live TV, and then for Lois to kind of like dog out Clark, where he kept trying over and over again just to tell her something, and she like wouldn't give him the time of day. And then also she pretty much forced her dad on him. Like, here, stay with my dad. Like, it was kind of they kept putting Clark in a weird position, and Clark, of course, kept turning the other cheek because he always does. But it was kind of like it seems like they were making Jimmy and Lois a little more unlikable. During the second half, they became more likable characters again, and they kind of had to redeem themselves, which I appreciated. But it was a little rough seeing that. I also like seeing a different version of Kara, where Kara was more like Android 18, where she was tougher. In the comic books, so know, Kara is a lot closer to this, so to speak. She's not as she's not very much a Clark Kent clone. She's very much like, I'm a Kryptonian. I like to fight. What are we doing? Let's throw hands. So it was the second half was much better for me than in the first half, so to speak. And I love. I think y'all know my favorite actual Superman villain is Brainiac. If not Superboy Prime, it's Brainiac. I love anytime there's a super villain that's actually super duper smart, that actually knows what they're doing, kind of like an Ultron, but serious. I really enjoy that, so to speak. So yeah, I was on board for it.
Yeah,
I agree. I do think that. Oh, sorry, that's good.
No, go ahead. So what you gonna say?
I was going to say, like, I do think that the second half of the season was definitely a lot stronger because, I mean, early on, it really couldn't see what the plot was building up to. It felt borderline episodic. Like, I mean, of course, the relationships that we're trying to develop and showcase more, how they changed over time to a degree, but some of it kind of felt like it didn't have a direct that it wanted to like go in. Second half, when they really got further into the Kara story on understanding exactly how she became the version of her who she became, and then the Brainiac reveal. I thought that was pretty well executed. I appreciate, getting to see a DC doing something where it's not just like, oh, Waller did it.
Yeah.
Waller did it.
It feels like that's kind of been what they've been doing for a lot of their content across, multiple mediums, from the comic side all the way down to, movies and animation.
Multiple CW shows.
Yeah. So,
Waller, help us, save us, please.
Yeah. Because she was,
I feel like she's been kind of holding up to DC, but that's just me.
But since Justice League Unlimited, Waller's kind of like been the OG. But CC's Calendar kind of like. Okay.
I think that's what it was. She was like a fan favorite in that show, so they're like, all right, we're just gonna run her back because fans like her.
Yeah,
and ran her into the ground. And
do y'all remember when they tried to help doing the whole? Was it New 52? They had her as she like a skinny, hot Waller. It's like people were like, what is this? We don't want this Waller. Was that New 52 when they changed her?
I think that was.
It was. They had versions like that, like before that though.
Even before that too. Okay.
Like I think if I remember right, like she was skinny like that in the comics. Both like it wasn't like prominent that she was like heavier set until the animated series.
Is that what they changed?
They like adapted her a little bit more from then to be like closer in line to that. I think.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, that's what it was. That's the case.
No, I can't remember either.
But yeah, I think you brought up valid points and valid criticisms. I don't know. I feel like I disagree slightly with the beginning of the show. I felt like that's when the show felt more human, at least those characters, because they were actually like more. They were like humans. They were more selfish. Because I felt like in that first season, Jimmy and Lois kind of dropped everything they were doing for Superman or for Clark and whatever his aspirations were. And in this season, it was a lot more. They were a lot more selfish in their wants and needs. With Lois, it was like, all right, I want my relationship with my father. I want to follow and pursue my career more, but I don't know if I can do that here with him. And so I'm looking for a reason to push him away so I can go do my career, my dream job. And for Jimmy, it was wanted to take on Firebird more and kind of do his own thing. And seeing Clark have to come to realization, okay, I'm not the sun in the solar system. Like everything doesn't revolve. Well, technically everything revolves around him in the sense of the show, but I feel like they acted more like human beings in the beginning of the show. Granted, I do agree in the sense of I think they could have done that and it had more direction as things went along. But I did enjoy that, especially the aspect of I'm gonna say Clark trying to tell Lois about him having that transmitter to call his cousin. But she's like, look, I have a lot going on right now. I don't have time for that. I'm trying to she's inadvertently pushing that off. And wouldn't even hear that out because she's so absorbed in her own stuff that she has going on.
Which is fair. That is human, and I understand that. But I guess the idea too was it seemed a little it did make them unlikable to me personally, as far as because I get it. She was pursuing a career with Vicky Vale, and that's great. And of course, she's trying to pursue a relationship with her father, but she wasn't talking. She was almost avoiding Clark for no reason at all. The same thing with Jimmy. Jimmy, when Clark was, Jimmy, how many times has Clark saved or Superman saved, both Jimmy and Lois? And then when he needed him once, Jimmy just literally runs away from him. Everyone's putting Superman on blast, and Jimmy just runs away, runs out of the studio. It's that's messed up. Could you imagine if Otis was like, yo, man, I'm Otis at his low point, and a whole crowd's cheering, kind of dogging on him, and you and I just run away from him, completely leave him by himself? That's terrible. There's no way around that. I don't care what you're pursuing as far as your flame or your career. It's I would never just abandon Otis to an angry mob like that. That's insane.
And I think that was part of it. I think that was. I felt like that was intentional because they wanted to throw some kind of development in that relationship because no friendship is perfect from start to finish. Especially with the Lois thing, where again she's focused on her own stuff. The Jimmy stuff was a little bit more. I agree with you there as far as they tried to throw a little bit more cog in that machine of having it with that relationship with him and Lex almost, and as far as them doing I think verbatim him doing his own thing and not being reliant on Clark so much. Because I felt like if they would have went into this season where they just followed behind Clark no matter what the adventure was, it would have felt more. It would not episodic, but it would have felt too clean to me per se. From what they did in the original season where they had a lot more development there. I think throwing just a little bit of dysfunction in their relationships and seeing them overcome that hump to still be friends was a positive way to go about it. But I just think there should have been more direction there as far as like the pacing towards the car and the Brainiac stuff, because I feel like that kind of just dropped halfway through.
I completely agree. I think that's what it was just the way it was handled. It wasn't the idea of execution. If they had, for example, you mentioned Lex Luthor and Jimmy, because Jimmy had all the money from Flamebird. If they'd had that, Lex was pretty much trying to team up with Jimmy to do certain things, and that's kind of how Jimmy started turning against Clark or Superman in a sense, because he was working with Lex more. That it made more sense, but they didn't really have it in the series. If they had it where Lois doing so much, if it actually showed her doing more as far as with her career with Vicky Vale or with her dad or whatever it was, actually showing more of that, it would have made more sense for them to kind of do that much more on the outside with Clark. I get you, So yeah, I'm not opposed to that at all.
Lush, your sentiments, your thoughts, concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a fan of when characters have moments of discourse and that feeds into the overall plot of what's going on within the season. Mm-hmm. I don't really feel that happened enough with the issues that they had. Like, I feel like they could have played on something like like one of the big things within the season is like seeing Jimmy's got money. Like, I mean, he
I need more.
Is doing well for him, right? Right. But like, say, hypothetically, if they would have route where a lot of that, like the investor for that was Lex Luthor, and like he had to kind of choose between the money or the Superman. I feel like that would have been a bigger plot line than just like, oh yeah, I was hosting this panel and I wanted to talk to you about how Superman is like that. That didn't feel like a natural progression to me. I think that it could have been handled a little bit smoother. And opposing if hypothetically if Vicky Vale was on a major slam campaign against Superman, trying to say he's doing horrible things, and as destruction is happening around Metropolis, and seeing oh, this is another alien that's related to Superman, it's like they were pushing Lois career-wise to be antagonistic to Superman.
Yeah.
I think that would have played very well into the season, but it kind of just didn't. I mean, just she's got her busy life, and I don't necessarily have time for Clark all the time, and all of a sudden I'm insecure about you're super. Like, when has Lois Lane ever been insecure about anything?
It's usually the opposite way.
I think the only time I've ever seen it is when Wonder Woman was around, and they in the animated show where they dated first. Wonder Woman dated first, and then they had. I remember her and Lois had that kind of dialogue about I'm not Wonder Woman, yeah, but you're Lois, type shit. But I agree. I think if they would have done it in that route, they would have him relying and wanting to meet Kara so bad would have hit a lot more for me. Because I'm if both your friends, the only people you have that support you in the world, are kind of on some fuck shit right now, having somebody that understands you, I think would have made a lot more sense.
Because they were setting that up. They were setting that up when he went up on the roof by himself and he was hitting the button. Because he's like, I feel so alone. I get that. I get what they were doing. It's very much there. I mean, it's in the subtext. I feel very much alone and lonely. I want someone I can talk to. It was just some of the execution.